8 years ago, in the autumn of 2012, we had the first suspect test of Black and White 2 OU. The suspect in question was Sandvale. It was the first time it had been tested in any metagame, and it was actually the first time I ever participated in a suspect test. Now, if wading through a sea of substitute spamming Sandvale Garchomp sounds like the worst thing ever to you, well, you understand why Sandvale was banned, and you can thank me and the many other brave players who sacrificed their sanity and struggled through that ordeal in order to make sure we didn't have to deal with it anymore. We paved the way for future generations, and we're heroes and stuff. That suspect test was truly our D-Day. Anyway, I voted ban on Sandvale back then. So did most everyone else, thank God. And as a result, the Gen 5 OU metagame improved. Now, fast forward a couple years, we do the exact same thing to DPP. We get rid of Sandvale, the metagame improves. And that brings us to the present day, and the topic of this video. Throughout 2020, Advance was the only remaining OU generation with permanent Sandstorm that still allowed Sandvale. Now, before we get into the details of Advanced Sandvale abuse and the test and subsequent ban, then we first have to address the common misconception that always pops up in discussions of old generation tiering and tends to distract from the issue at hand. So that misconception can be summarized as follows. Why are you touching an old generation? It's an old generation. It's a dead generation. You shouldn't be touching an old dead generation. You shouldn't be changing anything about it whatsoever. There should be nothing different about this generation at all from the time it ended until the present day. It should be static. It should be frozen. It should be locked. It's not like you're dealing with Arceus here. Just stop crying, suck it up, and deal with it. So it's usually something along those lines. And you'll notice that none of those so-called arguments have anything. They don't even try to refute the supposed brokenness of any given factor beyond the horrible comparison to Arceus, because we've never had to deal with Arceus and OU, and if Arceus is our standard for Uber, then let's just drop Kyogre, because Kyogre's not Arceus either. So, that said, I should clarify why old generation tiering exists. I realize that a lot of the appeal of old generations is their stability and their familiarity. No one wants to have the rug pulled out from them every other month, but that's not the point of old generation tiering. We are not here to go, oh man, I'm sick of Metagross, let's get rid of this thing. I hate Choice Band Explosion, it kills my Skarmory, and that's not the point. The point of old generation tiering is to deal with things that pop up that threaten the competitive integrity of the metagame. And if you're thinking, well, it's an old dead generation, how is anything different now from whenever it ended? Well, generations of OU do not stop. They do not freeze in time just because a new generation of OU comes out. High-level players are playing in high-level tournaments, no matter what generation of OU, even RBY, which is older than most current players, is still getting played year-round by the best players. And you know what happens when the best players play a certain tier year-round in high-level tournaments? That's right, the metagame evolves. The metagame moves forward. Even if it's old, the metagame still evolves. 2020 RBY is evolving, so nothing else could possibly not evolve. So now that we have that in mind, then we can examine Sandvale. So we know that we have pruned other old generations to maximize their competitive factor, because when you have these high-level players playing in these high-level tournaments, trying to gain an edge over their opponents, trying to explore new boundaries of the metagame, then we sometimes stumble upon strategies that were not popular or even discovered prior, but that turn out to be really, really strong. A metagame does not have an expiration date of whenever the next generation comes out. That's ridiculous. There are so many things about current Advance and DPP that did not exist at all when they ceased to be the current generation. So that's why we've had bans on things like Baton Pass and Dugtrio, and yes, Sandvale. The DPP Sandvale test was retroactive as well. So now another common thing you're probably wondering is, well, wait, Advance doesn't have Garchomp, it doesn't even have Gliscor. what abuses Sandvale in Gen 3? These two, Cacturn and Gligar. And I know what some of you are thinking, oh, come on. Sandvale cannot be that bad on these two. I mean, I understand Garchomp or even Gliscor because you miss one move on them and you're toast. But these, come on, Cacturn is NU, Gligar is UU. Give me a break. Well, as we are going to see in this video, missing one move on these Pokemon can very well be game-breaking. And don't worry, we'll be going over all the Sandvale arguments here. But first, we want to just explore what do these Pokemon do. Now, Cacturn has some flexibility in its moveset because it doesn't always have to run Spikes if it has a Spiker on its team. It doesn't have to run HP Dark. It can run HP Grass or Needle Arm, which has a 30% flinch rate and makes it even nastier alongside Sandvale, and Paralysis because, you can pair these with Paralysis and make them even dirtier. But the fact that it's a Sub-Seeder that also has Spikes, oh, brutal. Brutal stuff. So yes, if you miss one attack on Cacturn, then you can very well suddenly go from winning a matchup to losing a matchup, because think of it like this. I switch my Salamence into Cacturn, my leftover Salamence, so it can't just sub-stall me in Sand, and I outspeed it, and I break its sub with HP Flying, and it'll have to switch out. Most it might get is a Leech Seed on me. But I missed that first HP Flying on it as it lands its Leech Seed. And now it can just sub-spam, getting the HP back from its Leech Seeds. And now, Salamence has to either lose the matchup one-on-one that it should be winning, or it has to switch out. And you can't just switch around Cacturn forever because Spikes. So, the basic premise of why Sandvale is so stupid in a permanent sand environment is that you should not be punished for using 100% accurate moves and being unable to hit with them in a common battle condition. Sandstorm shapes the fabric of Advance, every aspect of it, offense, defense. It is just an inherent, intrinsic quality of the metagame. We need Sandstorm. So when these Pokemon pop up that punish the use of one of the most important tools in the metagame, then you suddenly have a real problem on your hands, because what do? You just start changing the weather? Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, let me just Rain Dance with my Suicune, because first of all, that's an end-all, be-all solution. Second of all, that has no opportunity cost whatsoever. Third of all, how is that reasonable? Because now I am worse off against Snorlax, which I need Sand to deal with, like most good advanced teams, and all just so I don't risk a Hack's loss to Cacturn and Gligar? It's ridiculous. And it's not like you just have to hit one 80% move, because yes, your 100% move becomes a Hydro Pump or Stone Edge. Yeah, those moves that are famous for their reliability and being able to hit multiple times. Because it also has Substitute, and it's not exactly slow. 229 is quite... I'm not saying it's blazing fast, but you are going to outspeed a lot of Pokemon on a lot of teams. You are going to have to hit multiple times, especially if it gets a Leech Seed off and it subs over and over and over again. Oh, it's brutal. So, yeah, it is a big deal to have your best move go down to 80% at best. In common battle conditions. It's the same reason why we get rid of Baton Pass and Dugtrio in multiple generations. Yeah, I'm not saying that these Pokemon are going to win every game automatically. That's the whole Arceus argument. Well, it doesn't outspeed and OHKO literally everything in the game. How could it be Uber? I really don't buy those arguments. The point is, we have a balance in the metagame, and when something pops up that is so polarizing to deal with that you have to choose between dealing with it and dealing with the rest of the metagame, then that matchup creator, that remover of skill, that's the big deal here. That remover of skill is not something we want in the metagame. The whole reason we have rules and clauses to begin with is to give the better player the best chances to win. That's the whole purpose. That's why we ban evasion already in the form of double team. And before you wonder, well, what about sand attack? Well, sand attack you have to actively use, and it goes away with switching out. And there's a lot of opportunity cost. But with Sandvale's arguably even worse than Double Team, because Double Team you still have to use. You have to take up a move slot and you have to get a turn to use it. Sandvale is already there. Sandvale is immediate. You don't do anything for Sandvale. You just spam your sub and your attacks and you can just dodge moves that you shouldn't be dodging. So, look, when you miss a Will-O-Wisp or something, then you have to say, all right, it's 75% accurate. I have to expect that to happen sometimes. But when you do things like run Surf over Hydro Pump, or Ice Beam over Blizzard, or Thunderbolt over Thunder, then you do that because you want the accuracy. And then Sandvale just goes, oh, no, never mind. And before someone says Aerial Ace Dugtrio, then Aerial Ace, the EVs on Cacturne are flexible as well. Aerial Ace doesn't come close to KOing from full. You're going to want an HP Bug. And let me tell you, HP Bug missing a Cacturne is the worst feeling ever. Not just from Dugtrio. I've had Cacturne sub in my faster HP Bug T-Tar's face and come out on top. It's pretty stupid. That's the kind of thing we should not be allowing in our metagames. And that's why we remove things like Dugtrio. Because, yeah, you can prepare for Dugtrio in Black and White and DPP and Oris and Sun and Moon, but it makes it so much more difficult to deal with the rest of the metagame. And that's already not an easy task. So that's why it's not feasible to run something like Rain Dance Suicune just to deal with Cacturne. And we haven't even addressed Gligar yet. So Gligar, you think, oh, come on, this thing is so weak. Look, weak attack stat. Yeah, the sub Swords Dancer with Stab Earthquake. You know what happens? This thing 2-hit KOs Swampert after one Swords Dance. So what that means is, if you miss once on Gligar, you're dead. Your Swampert is boned, and you are very much at risk of getting destroyed by this thing. So, yeah, and you pair these things with paralysis support, and it's just horrible. We'll be going over some examples. Don't you worry about that. So now we know why Sandvale is so undesirable to have in a metagame. And I will leave these links in the description, the policy review threads. I'm not going to be going over them because they're mostly just what I'm saying here. And you can read them for yourself. So, the council generally says, look, Sandvale is stupid. And another thing is that players wonder, well, how is this becoming a problem now? We already mentioned, look, when players play a metagame, then... Okay, let me rephrase that. When top players play a metagame in high-level tournaments, then they will find new strategies that weren't found before. Several of the most prominent aspects of the Advanced and DPP metagames were not discovered until years and years into their existence as old generations. And Sandvale is among that. I mean, look, people knew about Cacturne. People tried Cacturne a lot before, but it wasn't until this year that we really stumbled upon ways to make it efficient and consistently reliable. We found structures for it to thrive game in, game out. We'll be going over some of those. So there's a lot of... You can watch Vapicuno's thread here, or video, and read the thread at your leisure. And there's talk about, complex bans like Sub plus Sandvale. I'm not really into complex bans like that. I wouldn't hate it if they existed, but I just don't think Sandvale should exist, period. And I really don't care about Cacturne not being available at all, because Sandvale is its only ability. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but if the choice is between preserving Cacturne and not having to deal with Sandvale, I'm getting rid of Sandvale every time, because Cacturne's existence in the metagame, yeah, it's nice. A lot of players were saying, oh look, Cacturne punishes bulky teams. You know how easy it is to punish bulky teams nowadays? We have Metacham seeing high-level tournament usage. Metacham of all things. The existence of... Just because something does something good in the metagame does not mean we should keep it around if it's broken. So, just because Cacturne punishes annoying bulky teams does not justify us leaving it around, even though it is so ridiculous that it can beat things it really should have no chance of beating whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Sandvale was banned in Gen 5, where it had to compete with Rain half the time, I mean, that should say it all about how dumb this ability is. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And people might say, well, what about Thunderwave? Thunderwave does crazy things. Rock Slide, again, you have to actively use those, and those are a lot more easy to bypass than Sandvale. Thunder Wave, you have things like ground types, natural cure Pokemon, Pokemon where it doesn't really make much of a difference. Rock Slide, you can have resists. You should have resists. And you can handle it by playing well. But with Gligar, the Swampert example is perfect, because how do you deal with a physically attacking ground type, a Swords Dancer? Well, your bulky water should handle it pretty well, right? Uh-oh, you missed once. Good night. It's ridiculous. So even a perfectly healthy max Swampert, max HP, max defense, which is super rare, that spread, and of course the fact it has to be at full HP, it gets 2 KO by plus 2 EQ, so you miss once and you're dead. So, yeah, now we'll just go over. Some people wanted only Gligar because they thought Cacturne, does good, it threatens the bulky teams, but no, I don't agree with that at all, and I'm glad we didn't do that. It's just all of Sandvale should be gone, and for the reasons we have discussed thus far. So, here are the voting qualifications, and some of this was a bunch of voting criteria stuff. So, one of the best posts in this thread about the actual Sandvale, problem of Sandvale. Sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. So yeah, here's the Sandvale discussion, and this post. Oh, Vapicuno makes some great posts as always because he uses data. So all these replays you saw in the original post, we'll be going over some of them. Then he uses data to determine that yes, it is in fact stupid, and you can check out his YouTube video. Check out his channel in general; it's great. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention. So this second Sandvale thread, again linked in the description. Then this focuses more on the broken nature of Sandvale, and the really good post that I would encourage you guys to read is another Vapicuno post, which is a great one. But this post by Sigla I think is really on the money. So I won't be dissecting it or anything because I'll just let you read it for yourself. But I want to take the game that he focuses on. It's one of the best examples of how stupid Sandvale is. So it's a high-level advanced tournament game between McMegan and Star, and stuff happens we don't really care about. And look, so McMegan's using T-Wave, Tyranitar, so that means Cacturne has an even easier time against Snorlax later on. Boom, T-Tar, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so now here's the thing. So, Cacturne switches into Claydol. Yikes, okay. Well, so what do? Cacturne, if it subs up here, that's pretty dangerous. So, well, luckily Star's a fast Claydol with Explosion, so we can take the Cacturne out, and he should be, he'll at least not be threatened by it. And, okay, yeah. Yeah, 100% moves missing on turns like that. It's just not a good addition to the metagame. There really is no. We've already discussed the negatives of Sandvale, but in terms of, there are no competitive benefits of Sandvale. It just serves to add extra unnecessary RNG into the game. Cacturne itself, yeah, you could say, oh, a grass-type Subseeder with spikes, that's cool. That, at least, is a positive. I recognize that. It doesn't outweigh Sandvale's negatives, but Cacturne itself is a positive. But Sandvale as a whole, and this is why I'm not sorry to see something like Sandslash go either, then Sandvale as a whole just exists to do stupid things like that. And the rest of the game isn't really important, because it's just the fact that it can do that and swing games so hard. 20% is a lot in Pokemon. So just to have that chance of just, basically getting the Claydol for free, you could say it's too lucky, it's too uncompetitive, whatever. Sometimes I just think, man, this is too good. It's too powerful to have that tool. So whichever way you want to look at it, then whatever works for you. But I fluctuate between this is let me try it again. It's uncompetitive, detracts from skill, encourages stupid things like spamming sub, waiting for a miss. But at the same time, it's also just really, really overpowered to just have that tool at your disposal. And it's not like you're using like little cup Pokemon or something. I mean, I know, Cacturne, NU, Gligar, UU. I mean, these are good Pokemon. They have some great traits. Gligar is one of the best Heracross counters in the game. So, and Cacturne, of course, we got on over all its positives, and that's why they're being used and Sandslash isn't. So, the fact that they can just do, or like that other example, I had a tournament game where I had my Jolly HP Bug DD Tar in a one-on-one against, is this playing still? Yeah, okay. In a one-on-one against Cacturne, and I just used HP Bug, and it just missed, and it subbed up, and it leech seeded, and I think it stalled me out, or it would have stalled me out if I hadn't switched, which is, yeah. So, yeah, this post is good, and there's more. I posted in this thing myself. I agree with what Eden said as well. So, yeah, you can read a summary of my thoughts in text format in this post and this thread as well. Link in description, because I want to remind everyone that it is in there, and reading description is good. So yeah, Sandvale, all negatives, no positives. So yeah, Aerial Ace or Swift are really not answers, and I think that covers most of it. So let's go over some of these replays. Oh yeah, this one was comical. The TDK versus Tony game. TDK versus yeah. This one was absurd. So stuff happens. We're not really interested in that. Zapdos, Fori gets spikes up. So if that means Cacturne has one less move slot, it has to worry about. Let's fix these dimensions. Does anyone remember? I really hope this is the case. You remember Justy? The theme reminded me of it. Justy in the pre-gym in Pokemon Coliseum. Remember the theme of his team was Sandvale? Yeah. We should not allow that in the metagame. No. God, I still remember that. Dealing with him, he was the worst. Anyway, so now Gyarados scared out. Agility. Oh yeah, is Cacturne a good switch into T-Tar? Not really. Pretty much every T-Tar set has a move that can OHKO or come very close to it. Like even Bulky Crunch Pursuit T-Tar runs, if not Fire Blast or Flamethrower, then even Ice Beam. And now it has an agility, so Cacturne subs up, and now even Mence can't scare it out too effectively. And Leech Seed, that's only if it hits, because now look, you spam the Leech Seed, and like. Just to be clear, I think in this matchup, look at Tony's team. In this matchup, Cacturne is still really dumb. With the spike up, even without the agility pass. But I mean, look, this Mence has to chain 80%, and that's very unreliable. And then something like Metagross has to it hit the explosion. So yeah, it just keeps going down and down. So yeah, look at that one. He blew up the Metagross to get rid of the Cacturne sub and to chase it out, right? And now Cacturne still can sub multiple times looking for that 80% that it hasn't gotten so far. And if Mence misses even once, then it's boned again. So the specifics of these battles are not really important, which is why I'm going to X this one out, just like I X the Star Master one and Star Master McMegan one out after Cacturne did its thing, because that's the focus of it. But it's just the fact that we have something like this that can do these things is really uncompetitive, unfair, anti-skill, overpowered, whatever term you prefer. See, there misses the hidden power, and now Cacturne's going to keep subbing up. It just took one miss out of many 80%, and you think, oh, well, Cacturne can miss Leech Seed as well. Yeah, that move that's 10% more accurate than the most accurate move you're going to have against Cacturne. So, so Leech and, okay, I don't know why Tony went for Rock. I guess he was expecting that was not a good move, but the fact that it even came to this was ridiculous. So, let's go for another one. Let's do ABR M-Dragon. I think this one was similarly ridiculous. And I realized, just in case someone gets a certain idea, look, Sandvale's not going to automatically win every game. that's not the point. The point is not, look at this thing winning games it has no business winning. It does that, but it also, the fact that it even has a chance to do so is disgusting. But it's also... God damn it, I just lost my train of thought. No, okay. It's the fact that it has so much come down to chance. You know, because if in that previous game, then the Cacturn doesn't dodge, then he basically just wasted it for doing nothing, and he didn't have to do anything to activate. At least if you're subbing looking for a Parahacks, then yeah, okay, that's similarly dumb. But you have to actively make the Parahacks happen and spread it to as many Pokemon as possible. Where Sandvale applies to literally everything and is activated by leading off with Tyranitar. You know, one of the best leads in Advance. So here's an Ice Punch miss as Cacturn gets... oh, there's another Ice Punch miss as Cacturn gets up some spikes and spams sub. And now here's Starmie. Oh, another layer of spikes. That's wonderful. So now spin and it takes Hidden Power Grass or Dark, barely. And, oh yeah, Cacturn gets up another layer of spikes and lives an Ice Beam because it is just that dangerous. It can tank an offensive Starmie Ice Beam. Oh, now look, here's Gligar, so you gotta hit more 80% everywhere. And, so that one hits. And now M-Dragon makes a great move and traps the Tyranitar. And, even if it didn't KO, then Gligar would have gotten another sub. And, yeah, so the fact is Gligar... oh, yeah, no, Jolteon is also missing, and... yeah, I'm not going to do any more, I don't think, because it's just such a comically dumb thing. You can peruse all these replays for yourself if you like. So, yeah, that has been that. I am glad to see Sandvale gone. Fuck it hard, fuck it to hell. I have no reservations about using such harsh language. Because when it boils down to just random number generator nonsense, it's just, I have very little to no sympathy for it. So, thank you guys for watching. This Advance will be a lot better off without this tool to just... because one of the fears that players have is, well, what if my opponent just brings this random thing that they could feasibly bring, and I have to go out of my way to be ready for it, and that will make me worse against the rest of the metagame. Like with the Rain Dance example. You don't just throw Rain Dance on Pokemon. And so it's about opportunity cost. It's about significant opportunity cost. And you start getting into these matchup games, and that in itself is already an extra strain on team building, which is already difficult enough. And it just is not something that should exist in OU. Even Mirror B wouldn't want it. It'd be too... he prefers the rain, of course. Anyway, so I think I've said most of what I want to say, and I don't want to repeat myself too badly. So I'm going to call it there. So thank you guys very much for watching. I think the metagame will be much better off now that we don't have this anymore. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts, and commenting and liking algorithm stuff, thank you very much, and I will catch you next time.